Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Old Hunt, where we are still celebrating 10 years of Bloodborne. Last time, we finished our exploration of the unseen village, the Hidden War. Well, mostly. I think there was one area that I didn't necessarily go up and thoroughly investigate, but it'll make more sense to visit that particular portion of the outer area later, and it's probably more trouble than it's worth to go back now. Anyway, that's for another time. Last time we finished our explorations, we learned about the strange kidnapping hunters of the unseen village, where they have this attire they wear to blend into the night, grab people, bring them back. They're connected to the School of Mensis, and they're running around kidnappers, hunters in name only. And they've got some sort of weird rituals going on that we don't fully understand yet. Also, we learned about the product of another obsession, which I think is very in line with a lot of the themes that we've seen in Bloodborne. We're seeing the ways that various forms of obsession can translate into strength. And we saw Archibald, or we didn't see Archibald. We saw the products of Archibald's work, and therefore also of his obsession. He was obsessed with dark beasts, like the one we found in this boss arena here, Dark Beast Parl, and he wanted to create a unique weapon that recreated the bolt, the arcing sort of lines of lightning that you could see on dark beasts, and he created the Tonitrus. Was not very popular. He also created bolt paper that you could just rub on any old weapon, and it would therefore generate sparks. And that was much more popular. Or, well, I don't know about much more popular, but it was definitely more popular than the Tonitrus, which nobody liked. Bolt paper had its admirers. So he did okay on that front. And the last thing we learned that we have this additional connection to Old Yharnam. And if we come at Old Yharnam from this direction, there is something of a benefit that we can gain, because it allows us to approach Dura from a direction he does not expect. And the reason it's important that we approach Dura from such an unexpected direction, I think, is tied in with the note that we find on the main entrance to Old Yharnam, the first way that we came in. Right, so if you remember back in the episode where we were walking into Old Yharnam, there was that, There was that giant door that had a message that said, hunters not wanted here, turn back. And then we go in and he sees us and he knows, okay, there's someone way over there. They've ignored the warning that I placed on that door. And as such, he's able to give us one additional warning and say, okay, I don't know why you opened that door and ignored the warning, but this is your last chance. Turn around or I will hunt you. I will see you as my prey and take you out, inevitably. And, we persist and he fires at us, but if we approach him from a way that he does not expect, if we come up to him and, as far as he knows, we've not been warned, right? We've received no warning whatsoever if we come at him from this direction. So what does he think? And note, he's not shooting at us. He's not attacking us. He's just waiting here for us to start talking to him. Let's see what he has to say if he doesn't think we've broken any warning.
Well, how did you get in here? It's no matter. What brings you to Old Yharnam? I've no interest in matters further up, but you must not disturb this place. The beasts do not venture above, and mean no harm to anyone. If you still insist on hunting them, then I will hunt you first. You understand me?
Ooh, that's so good for Doanandaro, or whatever the equivalent was that was just on screen. So literally that's something like, what do you think, right? What do you make of it, right? It's sort of asking the person for their opinion, right? Which is why we're getting this dialogue, right? He's prompting a response. But there's just this underlying threat from the phrasing, do you understand me? And particularly, again, with the voice actor's delivery, you definitely get that hint, that undertone of, if we don't have an understanding, I just told you I'm going to hunt you and things are not going to go well, right? And they're able to sort of draw that out in a way that you wouldn't necessarily see if you were just looking at a literal version of that line. Which, I mean, Bloodborne, I've said this before, Bloodborne has a set of great, very talented translators working on it. Translation's amazing. And yes, I'm talking about in this series the places where it doesn't necessarily convey the same information as Japanese, and the Japanese may provide for more linguistic possibilities, additional interpretations of the lore, but the artistry on display in the translation never fails to impress me. Anyway, we have two options here, right? So we can say, you give us this warning, and again, we didn't see the warning on the door, so he's like, "Oh, what brings you here? I don't care what's going on anywhere else, but you come down here, you don't hunt the beasts, right? That's what I care about." So, do we have an agreement? Do we have an understanding? Right? You picking up what I'm putting down, that sort of thing. We can tell him, "Oh, hey, guess what? Despite what you literally just told me, I'm gonna hunt the beasts of Old Yharnam." Ha! I wonder how that's gonna work out. Probably not well. Or we can just say, "No, I'm not gonna hunt. I'm not going to hunt the beasts." Well, it doesn't have the beasts, right? The dialogue option just says, "I will not hunt." But the implication is, right? We're gonna hunt the beasts of Old Yharnam, or we are not going to hunt the beasts of Old Yharnam. Very binary selection here. So let's tell him we're not going to hunt the beasts of Old Yharnam and see what happens.
Yes, very good. I no longer dream, but I was once a hunter too. There's nothing more horrific than a hunt. In case you fail to realize, the things you hunt, they're not beasts. They're people. One day you will see. It's time you got going. But first, a farewell gift. I have no use for it anyway.
Okay, so some interesting things there. First of all, towards the beginning of the dialogue and then again towards the end, we're getting more confirmation that Dira knows about the dream, right? He says, "I no longer dream," right? And once again, we're seeing the sort of veiled reference to the hunter's dream. And also towards the end, he calls us his kohai, which there's not really a great English equivalent word for. So I don't blame them for sort of smoothing over that a little bit in the official translation. But if you're familiar with like Japanese school setting dramas or whatever, the senpai kohai relationship is pretty important, and you've probably heard about it already, right? It's sort of like the idea of upperclassmen and underclassmen, except there's a lot more wrapped up in it culturally than we have, at least in the US, and probably, I'm guessing, in the wider Western world, where sort of the senpai, the senior in the relationship, is meant to look after the kohai or the junior in the relationship, right? Someone who's in, and it's most prominent in the school setting, but you can also see it sort of like this, where you have a line of work, right? And so you have hunters, presumably in this case, because of the implications we got before, hunters of the dream, right? So this is our senpai, not just in the sense of like, oh, he's a year ahead of us in school and he knows the ropes and he's gonna help us out and provide us with support, help us to adjust to this new setting. And in response, we're going to help him out with like some things that he might need some assistance with when he asks us for his favor, to sort of repay his kindness and willingness to look after us and take us under his wing. That's sort of the idea of the senpai kohai relationship that you get in Japanese media, Japanese schools. I don't think it ever really fully plays out the way that you like expect it to. Sort of like any idealized relationship, really. When does that ever play out like the way you would imagine in a picture book or a dictionary entry or anything like that? It's much more complicated when you get to the way that things work out in real life. But anyway, it's this gesture. He's like, okay, I'm going to give you this thing because this is sort of a past life that I've lived. I'm your predecessor of the dream by implication, right? I'm reading some into his lines here, but I think it's pretty safe to say that based on everything he says, and say, okay, well, I've been in your shoes. You take this. I don't need it anymore. It could help you out. And so that gives us access to an additional badge. And we're going to take a look at that in a minute. There's still a couple things to talk about with his dialogue. Probably the most important other thing that I want to touch on, I might forget the third one because there's only so much I can hold in my head at a time live. Sorry, everyone. I can feel the other one slipping away. But the one thing that I definitely know I wanted to bring up again is I've talked before about how when you're a hunter and you designate something as your prey, that is your way of dehumanizing it, right? And you can see it in the way that Dira greets us when we ignore his warnings and comes in, right? we get this continued reluctance from Dura. Like, he puts up a warning, he bars the door and puts up a warning. You break that, he says, okay, I'm going to give you one more warning. You cross this line, and I'm going to start hunting you. And then when you again ignore his final warning, that's when he finally, unleashes the Gatling gun, and it becomes annoying to navigate Old Yharnam because he's firing at us all the time, right? So he will follow through eventually on that threat. It's not like he doesn't follow through at all. And we know that he was a hunter of the dream, so he was involved in the ghastly business of the hunt, but he finds it unpleasant, right? There's something in his dialogue that hints at that, right? Something about how there's nothing as terrible as a hunt. So he sees the necessity of doing it when it's the night of the hunt. Certain things have to be killed, certain things have to be done, certain things have to be designated as your prey, and once you do that, you have to follow through on it. But he regrets it, he's not happy about it, and he has now committed to the idea that these beasts running around Old Yharnam, they are transformed people, and they deserve to be treated as people. They are not, as far as he's concerned, it's a mistake to take the beasts that are running around this place and designate them as prey. He doesn't want to dehumanize them, even though they have transformed into beasts. And maybe, you could argue, they deserve to be dehumanized. But I think this is really interesting. And I think this is the cool thing about Dura, right? And I've talked before about how Bloodborne uses these dichotomies, these like dissonances, these two like conflicting aspects of characters to complicate its characters and also to surprise you, right? The characters in Bloodborne, as you learn more about them, they transform. And this is very in keeping with the way that Bloodborne is all about transformations and increasing your understanding. And as you learn more about a situation, the situation changes. We're going to see this in multiple other instances in the game. We've already seen it in multiple other instances in the game, right? You first come into Yharnam, you're like, this jerk, he's firing this Gatling gun at me. He's merciless. What's going on? In fact, you can see over there, that's where he's like giving us the warning. That's where we come in. And then we come across here. And then it's when we start going down onto the top of that building there that he unloads the Gatling gun, which I can't like climb up onto this platform and start firing, but it'd be kind of fun if you could. Anyway, that's where he like opens fire on us over there. And again, I've now totally lost the thought. But the main thing, right, is this transformation of the relationship. You're like, oh, he's a jerk. And you finally come in the back way. And it's like, not only is he considering the fact that you didn't break or ignore his warning and giving you a verbal warning now, he's willing to make friends, and he's willing to take the creatures that, presumably, because he used to be a hunter, he once saw as prey, and recognize the humanity in them, even though they possibly don't deserve it. So it turns out, actually, Dura, you're a nice guy. You, for all that you shoot at us, if you feel like you need to do what you think is right and protect the beasts of Old Yharnam, you're super nice, and you really don't want to be doing this, and you would really rather if you could just leave up that note and have everyone leave you alone. And I think it's interesting, like, not just in the way that it fits in the themes of Bloodborne in general. I don't want to belabor that point too much, because I feel like I'm going to be making it again in the future anyway. But I feel like it's also interesting in the sense that all of the NPCs that you meet have this sort of duality to them, these unexpected shifts in their characters, and, you know, nobody's... Maybe I shouldn't say nobody, but a lot of people really aren't the way that they might first seem when you talk to them. And I think it's interesting, and I've mentioned this before, that we can sort of contrast his story with Alfred's. And, I mean, just in saying that, we haven't seen the outcome of Alfred's story in this playthrough yet, but, you know, I talked about how this guy, you come in here and you think, oh, this jerk, he's labeled us as a beast, and later it turns out, wait, no, he's actually way more understanding and nice than I thought. Alfred comes off as very nice and welcoming and cooperative and helpful when we start talking to him. And I think you can see by implication where that particular storyline may be going. But anyway, that's a story for another time. For now, in order to get the dialogue that I want from Dura, we're going to have to make him hostile to us, and we're going to have to have him kill us, and hopefully I will finally get the full, like, not 50 or 75%, but the full 100% of the dialogue. If I don't get it after that happens, I'm just going to give up on it. But now is not the time for that. We've got more errands to run, and at the time we've gained plenty, I think, from this quick interaction. So for the time being, let's warp back to the dream. Also, we need to check in. Oops, not this menu. We need to check in. Not this menu either. I can't navigate these menus. It's too complicated. No, my brain is not up to the task. That's all. But we need to check in with Imposter Yosefka as well. So we're going to stop in at the dream. We're going to stop in at Imposter Yosefka's. We're going to get ourselves situated. And I think that's enough transitional stuff for now. We're going to start making our way to the other optional area in Bloodborne. But I will see you back in the dream. All right, we are back in the dream. We have pretty much finished everything I wanted to do in that part of the world, which is good. I am reflexively, you can tell that my last playthrough was a Tonitrus playthrough because I'm just reflexively fixing my weapons. Out of curiosity, if I wanted to switch to the Tonitrus, okay, I only have 8 Bloodstone shards right now, so it would not be the best time to do that. All right, fair enough. I was just curious. Actually, can I buy... Oh, I might need to buy weapons from the shop, actually. I don't really need levels for where I'm going right now. So, now might be the time... Oh, look, I can buy... Oh, but they're limited to 8, it looks like, at the moment. If I wanted 8 more of these shards right now, I could buy them. I'm a little tempted by that. However, I think I'm going to be missing some of these weapons here. Yeah, we don't have Ludwig's Holy Blade... We do have the Rifle Spear. We don't have the Pile Hammer, or the Stake Driver. We do have the Tonitrus. Okay, so I think the thing to do... Oh, and this is really expensive, isn't it? That's going to take, like, almost all of our current Blood Echoes. I think this is the thing to buy. We're going to buy Ludwig's Holy Blade. Okay. Have that in our back pocket. I'm, again, limited in my upgrade materials at the moment. I haven't done any Chalice runs or anything, so... I think we're just going to leave that be. And I shouldn't have left the shop because I realized I was going to go level up. And then I was like, wait, no, I just used most of my Blood Echoes for that other thing. So instead, I'll just grab a few more Blood Vials because it never hurts to have a good number of them. And, all right, what was I going to do? I wanted to read, not the weapon that I just picked up. I wanted to read the badge that we just got from Dura. That was his parting gift. And then also the badge that we found in the previous episode. So let's take a look. Let's start with, first things first. Let's start with the Spark Hunter badge, or the Lightning Hunter badge. Okay, or the, Hunter Verification, I think, if you want to be very literal, but it's sort of pointless for me to be that literal all the time, so the Spark Hunter badge, the official translation, totally good. It's so pretty, right? I like it. You can see why someone would be obsessed with that idea of capturing the moving sparks and the lightning and devote themselves to it. Anyway, let's get on to the translation very quickly here. Okay, so the first sentence runs across 2 lines, right? So this is a badge or proof or verification of friendship with Archibald, who is known as an eccentric in the Healing Church workshop. And it's a thing that he just made on his own, right? Katteni is a little bit tricky to translate quickly in a satisfactory way, I feel like, because it's like, think of someone just barging into your room, right? They don't ask your permission, you're not expecting it, and it's sort of a nuisance. The way that they've just barged into your room unexpectedly, purely on their own initiative, without consulting you or reference to your feelings, anything like that, that sort of action is the action that you do katteni. That's a good way to think of it, I think. So he just, without consideration for anyone or anything, decided he wanted to make a badge, this badge, to identify his associates, right? His friends and the people who were close to him, right? So he made this on his own initiative, potentially in a negative sense. Like, again, katteni, it's a little bit tricky to translate in the moment. But that's sort of the idea, right? So he just got this idea, hey, I've got a small circle of people who are interested in what I'm making. I'll make a badge for them. Okay. He, who was enchanted by the blue lightning, said to clad dark beasts, basically offered up his lifetime to artificially recreating them being the blue sparks of a dark beast, right? So this is sort of what I was talking about. We could get the sense without necessarily reading this badge, right, that he devoted his life to artificially recreating the blue sparks of the dark beasts. But this is spelling it out in case we couldn't figure it out from the bolt paper and the Tonitrus descriptions that we already read. All right, and then the final line. Okay, so in a sense, that was extremely Bergenworth-like of him, presumably, because it ends in Deataro, right? That's another form of sort of speculation or gathering information. That's that sort of sentence ending. So, in a sense, like him finding something, devoting himself to its study, and being sort of heedless of everything else, and being apparently like very dedicated and methodical. The methodical part maybe a little bit iffy. Very Bergenworth-like. So interesting that we're sort of associating like close, almost manic scholarship with the work of Bergenworth. But again, it's a little bit early for us to be talking a good deal about Bergenworth, but this place keeps coming up. It seems important. Anyway, let's move on to the badge that we just got from Dira. Okay, so this is a hunter badge issued or produced by the Powder Kegs is the official translation, and I like it, so I'm going to stick with it. So the hunter badge issued by the Powder Kegs, who were known as heretics of the workshop. And this is just Kolbo, so it's not the Healing Church workshop, I don't think. I think this is pretty explicitly just Gehrman's workshop, right? The hunter, standard hunter workshop. Heretics of the hunter workshop. What makes them heretical? If they're not the church, they have their own doctrine, apparently. What's that, and how are the Powder Kegs heretical to it? Anyway, moving on to the next section here. All right, they who saw an appeal precisely in complex mechanical designs and explosive force. That's the subject. They who saw entrancement, I think the idea is they were essentially obsessed with, right? Sort of like we have another sort of obsession. Maybe this is also Bergenworth-like. I don't know where this is going. I haven't finished reading this description. But you can see there's a little bit of a tie between the sorts of things that's happening here, right? They're entranced by the power of complex mechanisms meeting big, powerful explosions. Explosive power. And let's see what they do with it, because again, that's just the sentence subject. Okay, began producing strange weapons that draw a line sort of between them and what the workshop has produced before. So this is why I get answered the question, right? Why are they heretical? Why are they considered heretics of the workshop? It's because they took their obsession and they completely changed what the workshop was known for before them. They went and they took it in an entirely different direction. They were like, no, we're obsessed. It'd sort of be like if, I guess, because we already drew the connection, if Archibald had set the new standard for the Healing Church workshop. That's what you'd get if, and it wasn't just him and his bunch of close friends who didn't consider him to be a weirdo. These weirdos were popular in the Healing Church workshop. There were a bunch of them, and they were fascinated by complex mechanical designs and explosive force, like big booms. I think one of the official translations calls it, which I just love the idea that this, very complicated mechanism to achieve this simple kabam, right? Kaboom. Explosion sort of idea. Also why Powder Keg is a great name for them. Anyway, let's move on to the final section of the description here. Okay, and the Powder Kegs, who are now no more, interesting they sort of use the phrase for like died, as opposed to simply like aren't around anymore, that particular kanji. But anyway, the Powder Kegs, who are not around anymore, used to proclaim, things that are boring cannot possibly be good weapons as they are. Hi everyone, Editing Matt here. This set of statements sort of threw Gameplay Matt for a loop for two reasons. First, the kanji for usobuku is both complicated and rare, so it took some time to identify it. And second, there's a level of personality at work in the Japanese that simply does not come across in literal translation. This is perhaps easiest to see with the use of the grammatical phrase monoda at the end of the second to last line. That bit of Japanese grammar lets you know the following quote is something that the powder kegs once proclaimed, while also subtly reinforcing the idea that this is no longer the case, because of its associations with fond reminiscence. At the same time, it also hints that the quote was a frequently spoken thing that sort of defined the powder kegs, again because it's something that the hypothetical description writer looks back on fondly. But if you just translate that as, the late powder kegs often used to proclaim, it falls flat. This is where the official translation's use of the term motto helps bring back some of that character, because it tells you this was the defining creed of a now defunct group. Oh, and note that this marks yet another instance of our hunter inheriting the words of the past, allowing us to potentially embrace the philosophy of the powder kegs that currently lie dead. As for the motto itself, I'll let Gameplay Matt share my thoughts on that. Boy, what a what a translation that's sort of lacking in flair, right? For a group that's supposed to be like complex devices, giant explosions, and their motto is if a weapon's boring, it's not worth it. Come on, right? Like I think what's the official translation? Something like if a weapon ain't got kick, it ain't worth nothing. It ain't got nothing. Maybe some of that's just me inventing stuff on the spot. I'll put the official translation on screen. The official translators, I think, took that and elevated it from what it would be if you tried to just do a literal version. But anyway, that's enough about the powder kegs. Now we know a little bit more about the products of these various obsessions, and we've checked in on our weapons. We've bought a new weapon. We're slowly expanding our arsenal, because we've also got the Tonitrus. We've got in the rifle spear, we've got a number of weapons in reserve. I'm not sure how many of them I'll get to in this playthrough anymore. I'm going to try and make it work, especially if I can carve out some extra time to do some Chalice dungeon diving. It hasn't happened yet, but if I do, that'll get me access to a lot more materials. It'll make it easier to keep switching weapons. I mean, it's going to be harder the more I go through the game. But anyway, we've got a new thing to do before we set out on a new direction. We need to check in with Imposter Yosefka on her receiving a new person to treat in her clinic. So let's go there. Okay, time to see. Is my lantern still on? My portable lantern? Looks like it is. Anyway, time to see what the good doctor has made of Adela arriving at her clinic.
Oh, hello. You're safe. What a relief. She's safe with me now. I'm thrilled to have another. Here you are, as promised. What would I ever do without you? You're really making a difference.
Okay, that dialogue's the same. Let's see if there's another one sort of to tell us to go find more people.
What would I ever do without you? You're really making a difference.
I guess not. Anyway, we've received our reward, which I wanted to do one way or the other. I thought maybe that might be a little bit more eventful, but whatever. Okay, but we did. That does remind me, I wanted to take a look at the numbing mist. So we're going to warp around a little bit more. I'll see you back in the cathedral ward, which is, I think, where I need to start in order to go to the next sort of optional off the main track area in Bloodborne. And I'll also be trying to remember to take a look at the numbing mist description. I'll see you again soon. Okay, we are back in the cathedral ward. And I'm remembering, I'm in the wrong version of this screen. However, I'm remembering still that I wanted to take a look at that numbing mist that we've received so much of. Okay, so let's see. Literally, it's like mist of sensation numbing, right? It's not just any old numbing, it's numbing sensation. I mean, I feel like the one goes with the... You can see why they got rid of one of those words in the official translation. But anyway... Ooh, it's another elixir, another secret medicine. It is... I'll just go with elixir for the sake of this, because it's the first thing that's coming to mind. So an elixir which produces a numbing mist when it is thrown, right? Like it's thrown and then it lands, right? Sort of like the Molotov cocktail. It's thrown, it lands, and then flames spread out. This one, it's thrown, it lands, presumably this fancy bottle breaks, and the mist pours out, and that numbs sensation. Okay, next line. A hunter's sort of power of life. That sensation is dulled, and it blocks HP recovery, right? So there's an interesting thing happening here where when we recover HP using a blood vial, we get this rush of a feeling, right? And we can see that. I think I need to go and edit in the blood vial description because I physically cannot pull up a blood vial description right now. I'd have to be in the dream looking at the shop in order to get the full description there. But I'll put it in because there is a feeling that is associated with taking blood that is also associated with regaining HP. And this numbing mist numbs that feeling of vitality that a hunter relies on, and in doing so, prevents you from recovering HP. Very interesting potential implications of that. I'm not entirely sure what to do with it. I'm not sure how it fits into the grand picture of Bloodborne, but it is intriguing to me that you need that sort of euphoric feeling by implication if you want to bolster your life force, just to use the term because it's the only thing I can think of. Anyway, fascinating. Let's move on to the final set of lines there. Okay, it's said to have been used by the blood hunters of Canehurst, and its method of formulation, production, right? Sort of like we were talking about how the formulation of the lead elixir is shrouded in mystery. The formulation of this particular numbing mist is only passed on in a noble line of that castle. Castle Canehurst is the castle in question. I'll just say that. Technically a little bit of a spoiler, but yeah, Castle Canehurst is what they're talking about. So it's a noble line of Castle Canehurst in particular, the only one in the world that knows exactly how to make this secret medicine, this elixir. And it has the effect of dulling sensation, which somehow blocks HP recovering effects. And Canehurst blood hunters, that sounds interesting, right? So a lot to potentially theorize about with that particular description, but not a whole lot to really build with or make a huge amount of sense out of at this particular time, which is why I put it off for so long. But it is important to note that it's an item associated with Canehurst. So at the very least, keep that in the back of your mind. And anyway, now we are at the point where I'm running past all these enemies, and we actually want to take that left that all that long time ago I had the option of taking and decided not to. I think okay, I must be thinking of this. It's possible that I overlooked an item in one of those little nooks over there, but it's probably more effort than it's worth to find it. Okay. And, alright, so we're coming over here. This other path is, it's open to those who are interested in exploring the unknown, right? Because again, this is an optional area. It's off the main track. The main track is go in there, right? No, don't go in the grass. Go in that giant building, gigantic, impossibly huge building, the Grand Cathedral. That main entrance over there, which has the main entrance over there, right? That's where you're supposed to go. The game has been sending you no end of hints to go there. It doesn't tell you anything about going this way. But if you're of a mind to explore and learn the hidden truths of Bloodborne, you can find this path over here. And it leads to another optional area. This is not the other optional area. This is the path that leads to it. And it's got quite a lot of nasty surprises along it that I would like to deal with in efficient manner. So Alright, let's see. Did it drop anything? It did not. Okay. Don't want to get shot. There are a lot of dogs. Uh-oh. Oh, good. That could have been way worse. There are a lot of dogs and a lot of gunners in this area. Very interesting sort of setup. Also, let's see if I can get this working with one of these enemies. Come on. It's going to be very difficult. Oh, maybe not that difficult. You can sort of see these are dogs that have things sort of like taped. I don't know if taped is the right word. Let's see if I can get the monocular out here. Here we go. Nope, not the music box. The monocular. Okay. And as you can see, they have like those blades are like bound to their limbs and they're tied on to their backs and they're sort of tied in. It looks like wires down there at the bottom of their mouths. So at the base of it, these are not like, I mean, maybe they're transforming dogs, but they're not transforming with blades. The blades are stuck onto them. That's the origin of that particular thing. They're like fastened in place. Oops, I wanted to use it. There we go. All right. That's sort of neither here nor there, but I do think it's very interesting. Ah, mistimed the dodge. Oh well. I'll regain some HP from the rally system. Okay, and I don't know, I think, okay, so if I wanted to, I could just go to the new area right now, but where's the fun in that? The whole spirit of coming to this place involves lots of exploration, so let's keep up the exploring. Right. Yeah, and the reason I'm taking this very roundabout route is to avoid having to deal with too many of those gunners at a time. Also, there's a good amount of items scattered around here. Those twin bloodstone shards will eventually prove incredibly useful. Okay. I feel like there's another item back here somewhere. I guess not. I guess I am misremembering that. Right. And these gravestones, of course, provide a good amount of cover. As you can see, that bullet did not hit me. And now that we've killed all those gunners that were waiting to attack me if I attacked this really obvious gunner, and or went for this item, which turns out to be a bunch of pebbles, they've all been taken care of. Nice and handy. All right. So that just leaves the part that's going to be tricky no matter what, which are these enemies over here. And am I still super low or out? Okay, I only have one Molotov cocktail. The best solution to this combat puzzle right here, these 4 gunners, are Molotov cocktails. It's just hands down the best solution, the best answer to the question. And I've only got one, so we're going to try and make it count by throwing it at the one in the center. All right, good. He's dead. Now, that one enemy is aware of me, and the others are not. Is there any way that I have of attacking at range right now? I don't think so. If I go behind this tree, will he forget about me? Sometimes the answer is yes. You wouldn't think so, but their memory is not that good. I mean, you know, they used to be, you know, functional people, hunters, huntsmen. Look at that. But, you know, you start transforming, you get other things on your mind. Look at the fire that's burning there. Isn't it just captivating? Isn't it beautiful and pretty? Funny things happen to you when you start transforming into a beast. You can't be spending all your attention on someone like that. Oh, look at that. I completely forgot that there was that explodable thing there, or I would have thrown the Molotov cocktail at it. But because my weapon has a fire effect on it, I set off the explosion nonetheless. There's probably like an urn that I just did not see. Maybe I'll be able to highlight that in editing, maybe not. It's going to be sort of iffy. But anyway, the important thing is we cleared away that little huddle of enemies over here, gathered by the fire, and managed to get all those fancy items. And that is going to allow us, now, having fully cleared out this little path, to officially enter the next area, which is closed off by that gate up ahead. Love all the entrances you get to places in Bloodborne. It's very cool. All very neat. And here we go. Very impressive, right? So look at that. We get the bird set to fly off into the distance. We get the castle on the hilltop that sort of looks like a witch's hat. We've got whatever this pile, this like giant stone huddle, this mountain, I suppose, up there. We've got the other hut over there. It's just what a amazing entryway into a new area. All this promise of what could be. Very cool. Anyway, having gained access to this lantern, gained access to this new area, and gone for a pretty good clip, I would say, I am going to call an end to my hunt for the evening. But as always, I wish all of you good hunting.